So that covers the MMA Monday. We had the update on the TA Tuesdays. We had Bambrosia cover the NiFTy Tuesdays. Went over the Wallet Wednesday filings for the DAG token, as well as the token audit Thursdays on the DAG. We had Pepe and Obrizi with the FA Friday for the debt ceiling, and just now G-Force go over the S&P in relation to the debt ceiling for the stock Saturdays. So thank you to all the analysts, and thank you for everyone for being here for that section so far. Moving forward then, we're going to open up for Q&A. We'll hand over to Christine to handle that section for now. If there's anything that anybody would like to discuss, feel free to raise your hands. Somebody will pull you up, or you can use the chat box on the side. Thank you very much. Over to you, Christine.
Thanks, G. So the Q&A, what we'll do, because I think it went pretty well last week, is we'll go ahead and roll through, starting with MMA Monday, and then we'll roll through and wrap up with FA Friday, which I think we're all eager to get to, and the S&P options. So we'll bring those guys up at the end. But we'll get started with MMA Monday. So, Kathara, I do have a question for you. I believe that Phantom utilizes a DAG-based protocol for faster processing, and IOTA does as well with distributed ledger platform. I think it's called Tangle, which allows for concurrent transactions and eliminates the need for traditional miners, which I know is a big thing with DAG. So my first question, I guess, is I know there are a few that are utilizing what DAG utilizes, with the potential for faster transactions and eliminating those miners. But I'm kind of curious, why are there so few that utilize this approach? It seems like everybody that kind of comes out is more on the traditional side.
Yeah, so I think there's probably a few reasons why DAG technology isn't as widespread yet. It's kind of going back to what I was saying about DAG being like relatively unproven in terms of blockchain technology. It's coming after Bitcoin and Ethereum by pretty much a whole decade, while they've had a lot of time to like improve and mature. So yeah, DAG technology is like still relatively new and kind of in the development phase still. It's also like a little more complex than traditional blockchain technology. So while it's like it could be used for networks to offer better scalability, I think that might just like cause more problems in the infancy. So like kind of saw with Solana and like extended downtimes and stuff with their proof of history and all that kind of stuff. So at least in that case, that new like unique technology, Solana has a really good, pretty high market cap, so worked out for them.
Pepe, did you? Oh, looks like he's sharing his screen. He's got something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys hit on this, but I mean, it's a pretty big deal that they have federal partnerships, especially with the U.S. Air Force, and they're pretty tied in with some big corporations as well. So I mean, it has serious. I mean, I can't think of another blockchain. Maybe Avalanche would be similar because Avalanche has a partnership with Deloitte. Or maybe not necessarily a partnership, but Deloitte plans to use and is working at utilizing Avalanche for state and federal emergency funding, the United States. So, I mean, that's I guess similar, but having, U.S. Air Force support and partnership is a pretty fucking big deal. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really focus on, is partnerships. And I guess when they're assessing something for the long term, like Ethereum does not have that, right? Bitcoin doesn't have that because, and that's probably one of the drawbacks for more decentralized networks. Not that I think Ethereum is very decentralized, because it's not. It's more centralized now with proof of stake. But something like Bitcoin, you can't really work with a team or anything like that, or develop it in a way that you see fit. I mean, that's kind of also why you have like Red Hat for Linux, right? It's more like corporate side that it can be developed specifically to the needs of businesses and enterprise level versus just, these other distributions of Linux that, people use them. They're definitely useful, like Kali Linux or something, right? But like the average person is going to use, what's it called? Like Ubuntu or I think I use Line or something. I forget what it is on my desktop, but it's a form of Ubuntu. But that's not. It's cool that it works. It's open source. It's great, but I mean, open source also has limitations. So there's cost benefit there. I think that's the thing that people should also focus on when they're targeting, especially long-term investments. Something like this with government support and it's built in a highly secure way. Then people think that Ethereum or Bitcoin and all these different layer one tokens are going to be they're going to be big in the future because they're big now. I mean, that's not how it works, So it can, but it's not necessarily guaranteed that way. So yeah, I just want to point out the partnerships that DAG has and the way that they're building seems much more sustainable and more well thought out than a lot of the other platforms that exist currently.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
real
and
quick.
they've had that.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, we touched about Simba Chain briefly, but one of the things I noticed, like doing the research for this, is that Avalanche is actually considered a layer 0. The C chain is the layer 1. So that's why Avalanche has all the partnerships with, like we were saying, with governments and stuff like that. I think that
Right.
speaks more towards layer 0 protocols than... I don't think layer 1 protocols like Ethereum would have the same opportunity to do that. So just
I agree.
Expand on what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that, it's a mean to say like, we're early, but we are early, especially with blockchain technology. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if projects that are going to be long term, if they're not building like these protocols like Constellation Network or like you're saying, like Avalanche and working to build partnerships in a usable way to merge existing enterprise, serve their needs in the way that need to be met. The rest of it's just a meme. You know what I mean? Like, Ethereum's like unusable when there's fucking Pepe coin that comes out and then Wojak coin. It's like clogging up the network. It makes it unusable. Like, how is U.S. Air Force going to use that? You know what I mean? When they're spending fucking $300 per transaction or something, it's just absurd. So they're not, and that's the thing. And and then like these big, whether they're like corporations or government entities, whatever, like they're going to drive the mass adoption. You know what I mean? Because if the government can get behind it, it speaks to the whole we need more regulation in crypto thing. If the government can get behind it and they're supporting it, right? USAF letter of support right here, on their website. It's like, then that's a little bit closer to being, accepted in the eyes of government. And if it's accepted in the eyes of government, it must be good for me, says like, the average NPC or whatever. But we need to onboard those people for crypto to be what it can be. So, that's my thesis there.
Toronto says it's loyal now. Pop that in. He just dropped that into the chat.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. So
no, this is great. I was going to say, DAG's really led with the military alignment since the beginning, which kind of struck my interest a year or so ago. Definitely. And if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to break it up because I know we're going to round back to this with wallet finding and token audit. So we'll round back to this in just a minute. But I'll bring up Brambrosia. I hit him up during the main call, and I did want him to share some chickens. I know he's kind of wrapping up the chicken project, and I know we did not get to see kind of some options for chickens. So Brambrosia, I know you were going to share one that you were looking at that you seem like it's a primo chicken. So I'm curious of what you got. And if, oh, there we go. He's sharing his screen. And you are muted, just so you know. Oh, there you go.
All right. So, yeah, typically what I look for when it comes to chickens or any bird, I want to get the highest kg possible first. So right here, we're on the page. They have their own nice in-house marketplace. So they show the chickens, roosters, farmland blueprints, items, and drips. And then they show the different rarities with the floor prices. So they have a really, their website could use improvements, but it's still a pretty clean design. So, if there's nothing on the common floor that I don't really like, I'm going to go try and get the highest rarity chicken I can get, and then the highest kg. But that's just me. I like to actually like the JPEGs that I buy. If I don't like the art, I'm probably not going to buy the project. So firstly, the one that's standing out to me, it's a 45 kg. This chicken with the golden flex arms. So that means it gets the resource of gold. And it's for 36 AVAX. So it's honestly a pretty solid buy for 45 kg. We'll check in just a second. I'm going to click on this bird just to show you how they have this page designed. You can make a bio for your chicken. You can name your chicken. This one's called Lego. And so they have all the traits. So this one's called Midas Muscles, and it has construction helmet that gets you stone. The body is a passion red with Avaxium, and all these have different percentages that equate to the different resources. So that will help you craft these NFTs, these blueprints, which are all NFTs, that you can then use on your bird for various things to increase the foraging percentage or craft items to put on your actual farmland. Because like I said earlier, you can get all the resources, but not every farmland is going to have every 10 out of 10 resources. So usually you're going to have to craft an item to put on your farmland. So let's just see, come here. So we have a 45 kg, that's going to get you 12 egg per day. So that might not seem a lot, but using it in the game, in the ecosystem, that's going to help equate to playing the game and crafting. So egg is the predominant token of this ecosystem. Egg is king, but also all the tokens are valuable too. So yeah, I would go for that 45 kg nice chicken. It's a good rarity for 36 AVAX. And they have some other ones here, pretty cool backgrounds, and it's just whatever your style is.
So KG, I'm getting the importance of that. No, I'm so glad you shared this, because I was looking at chickens the other day and I was like, where do I even start with these things? So
Right.
That's a great breakdown. I was like, do I get one that looks cool? I assume not, because there's so much utility with this particular project that I had to have you bring this up and kind of break it down a little bit for me.
For sure. And, the KG, we got into this a little bit with the next week that we're talking about, but might as well talk about it a little bit because AVAX Summit already happened. They are going to be launching their cockfighting and then breeding down the road. So they have stated that KG is going to be important. And, of course, in this ecosystem, you want to be the most producer so that you can easily and efficiently play the game. So it appeals to the degen in all of us.
Now, I remember you said something about, was it cockfights or chicken fights, or does that relate to anything when you're looking at stats too, or is that something different?
Yeah,
okay.
So they've talked about that cockfighting, all the different traits, they're going to do a different move. So what Gravy has done with this redesign into the, I don't know how to call it, like an animated comic book kind of design for the cockfight that they're going to do. It's a player versus player. Not turnstile because you select your moves before, but these different traits in your XP, you're going to be able to do different moves or like perhaps craft different moves. And the KG is going to determine like how, let's see, I think they list this on the chicken front page. See, they're talking about roosting, crafting, gaming, breeding. But anyway, so you're going to have different moves that you can select beforehand before you play your opponent. And those moves are going to be executed during the match. It's not going to be like, okay, this person does this move and then this one does this. You pick your moves before, and it's a game of strategy. So you will be able to put wagers down, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it. If you can like play for pink slips for birds or something, like I don't know, but
that would be intense.
yeah, that would be putting a lot on the line. And they have some of these birds that are like 200 kg or and they're gonna pack a wallop for sure. So yeah, there's a lot to look out for, and I think they're also with these empty slots that you see for the traits for these birds. Let me just show you one of my birds right here. My newest purchased bird has this halo, the saint, the blue bandana. It has these slots where it says none. So it has none for torso, none for feet. What they haven't explicitly talked about, but what I think they're going to do is be able to apply crafted items to your birds to use items or special moves in these tournaments. And then that's going to evolve into other things and with breeding, and they've talked about doing the game Chicken Quest. So yeah,
No, that would make sense that they would expand on that, definitely. Kosaru, I saw you came up. Did you have a question?
Yeah. So like when you change the name of the chicken, is that actually like a signed transaction that like changes the information on the blockchain? Or is it just like something that changes like locally in the ecosystem?
I think it actually like changes the metadata of the bird, of the token. So yeah, and it's also a burn mechanism too for egg. So you have to pay egg, and you can change the bio of the bird. So yeah, I think it's an actual change the metadata of the bird, just like increasing the KG does too.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even know they could do that.
Yeah.
There's a project I'm part of that will go into, after we wrap up the chicken NFT project. But in that project, they are going to release, it's Bad Bunny. So you can change the name of your bunny if you want to. And I'm pretty sure it's going to cost some cabbage as well. So that kind of mechanism is definitely something fun to have and available. But on the back end, it's also doing something else.
Exactly. So Chicken has talked about they have this 4-letter word soup. They've talked about like upgradability. Let me see if I can find it because I'm not sure on the exact words of it. Yeah, I forget what it is, but they want like to have everything to have a purpose, but also to be engaging, and there to be strategy involved. S is the strategy, and then what's the opportunity? There needs to be incentive to actually play these games while it being fun, with utility too, because you can make a cool concept for a game, but do the tokenomics work? Does the actual structure work? Does the game structure and the game design and the game theory of it work? And these are all things that Chicken has done really well, and which makes them one of the leaders in the crypto space for NFTs and Web3 gaming.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I know sometimes it presents itself as maybe hindering people that are going to come in, as a barrier of entry. But
Yeah.
I think as far as sustainability, it has to be there. That increased complexity of gameplay and tokenomics, it just really, I mean, it might make some people shy away, but once you get into the project, I think they've mapped it out pretty well to where you can learn at a pretty decent pace and not feel like you're being left behind and not, profiting from whatever they have going on with all the different steps and options.
Yeah, it's a complex system to grasp at first. I remember when I first found this project in like December, when it, like, right before or after it launched. I was like, I don't even know how this works, and I didn't do it. So months and months later, I got more educated in the crypto space, and then I finally said, okay, so let me take another deep dive into this. And their page had gotten a lot better and easier to understand. And I'm a big believer in, okay, if it's complex, that means they've got something going for them. And if it's not for everybody, then they can make the project for everybody if they spend more time on it. Like if a project is too complex, or being formed, as we're seeing with a lot of these projects now, like Mad Skull Chicken, they're building a game, they're building the actual game as we speak. Like, ideally, it's just going to keep getting better and easier to understand to the public. And they have that wave of adoption graph that you see, and it's like, first there's the enthusiasts, then the techies and everything, and then after people start to come aboard, once it can be understood on a little bit more integrated level. And I think that's what Chicken's really pushing to do, is to integrate the whole ecosystem, to streamline, like, okay, what do we do? What is our whole thing? Because I totally get it. It can seem a little disjointed.
And then you start speaking a whole different language
Right.
of chicken. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I don't see
What
any other
happened?
questions. I was going to say, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was some great insight. I appreciate that, Ambrosia. Your write-ups are always really interesting, and this project is interesting to say the least. So we'll go ahead and move on to Wallet Finding Wednesdays, and we'll round back to Constellation and DAG after a brief little break of chickens. So, G, I did have one question. I thought the write-up was really good as far as breaking everything down, and it's crazy to think that like a year or so ago, a DAG node went for what, 40, 50K? I might be off a little bit there,
Yeah.
but everyone was buzzing when the bear arrived and like scrambling to get DAG nodes for a lesser price. And now we're seeing the value sitting at like, what was it, 0.03? So
Yes.
that even with that, everyone seems so bullish on DAG, and the amount of whale wallets holding is quite impressive. So I guess what I was wondering was, which exchanges are the primary trading platforms for the DAG token, and what are your thoughts? Is there a significance of KuCoin's substantial holdings of the DAG token?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. It's something that we were looking at as well when the analytics were being analyzed. I guess the data was being analyzed. Sorry. So a lot of the volume happens on KuCoin. It's on the DAG USDT, and then straight after that, it's the DAG BTC pair as well. Looking at the data across the different markets, it's mainly KuCoin and Gate.io. Looking at the actual amount balance, so KuCoin has around 999 million tokens, so it's just coming up close to a billion. It's about 600k off, and after that it's 3 million and 2 million, so it's considerably, it's about 97% more than the closest competitor in terms of exchange, or at least centralized exchange amounts. Now, we've tried to sort of try and understand where and why that's happened. It's likely that KuCoin was one of the early adopters. They jumped on board and they've maintained that relationship and that partnership to hold those coins for whatever reason, and the others have some partnership or agreement or some availability and liquidity, but for whatever reason they haven't increased that allowance from the small. Other than 3, after that it really looks like they're all less than 1 million coins, and looking at the value being at 3 cents, it's not much compared to what the overall amount. So there isn't any specific news as to why. It mainly just looks like they were one of the early people and no one else really caught on to it for some reason.
Hey, there's always the benefits of being early.
Yes, yeah.
So that was all my questions for the Wallet Finding Wednesday. Thank you, G. So that'll move us on to the Token Audit Thursdays. And I've got Trill. Hey, Trill.
What it do?
I thought your explanation and kind of your breakdown in the main call was really good. I've always been a fan of Constellation Network and DAG, but I must admit I fell out of the loop there for a little while. But from all the write-ups, it does still seem promising, even with future hurdles. You know, you guys discussed that earlier. Any thoughts on the announcement though, with the partnership of Simba? It seems like, DAG is still moving forward in at least on the military side and still capitalizing on that. Just curious, what was the major advantage in partnering with Simba? Like why did
I
they
think
go
that
for that?
bullish, as some people would say, because it is a government partner, but it's essentially because the way that directed cyclograph works is it's not necessarily blockchain. Like it's basically a extremely fast way to process transactions and information. So it's more of like a data structure than like a immutable ledger. So I guess that's kind of why we see the partnership, because it's not like in Ethereum where it builds smart contracts. And I mean, even though we do have the hypergraph network where they can build other mainnet level networks and things like that, but just the technology behind the directed cyclograph, it's as it was kind of stated before, it's kind of like new, so it's like it's more theoretical. So like it's theoretically not a blockchain just because it's just more of a way to process an infinite amount of transactions and information at a very fast speed. And as far as the partnership, like I said, it's pretty bullish. They're more so like, looking at since the Constellation Network is Hypergraph is like a layer 0 network, they're kind of like they're looking at the U.S. Air Force and looking at to build a network that can support or allow interoperability as far as like processing transactions, but not necessarily like in a blockchain sort of format, so to speak. But as I said, like it's still I mean, they said it's pretty bullish that direct not direct distributed ledger technology project has a federal partnership. So I still think that's good in the long range. Just more so like how it'll play out, because that was only just announced about um 10 days ago. So
Yeah,
gonna have to
it's
see
really
how
recent.
just gonna have to see how they actually carry out this you know requirement for the federal government, not federal government, but for this federal party.
Yeah, I was on Twitter last week after I saw your write-up, and I was kind of checking out Simba, and there seems so many people. I know we did, the Analyst did a write-up on QNT, I believe, and there's so many people saying that the golden trio is going to be DAG, QNT, and Simba. So we might be a little early to see kind of what that partnership is going to really evolve into, but Simba does. I mean, I read through their website. It seems like a very good step forward in partnership with them. I'll have to keep an eye on them and see what evolves with it.
Where it's like just one of those, like, it's just announced, so it's like you just gotta keep your eye on it and just see how it actually plays out, because it's more so just word of mouth at the moment. There's no actual development behind it.
Yeah, it's so stealthy. I want to know everything. Thank you so much, Trill. I appreciate it. And I don't see any of the questions popping up, so we are going to roll into FA Friday. So we should probably bring up Obrizi, hey Obrizi, Pepe, and maybe G-Force as well, because I'm going to kind of lump it together. Because I know that he did mention this in his S&P options posted this week. But so while I have you guys up here, it seems that the big announcement is that President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy supposedly reached or stepped forward in a debt ceiling deal. So I assume with this deal, we will see historic reductions in spending, no new taxes, no new government programs. But I do want to hand it over to you guys and see what your thoughts are on this. And I know more so I saw it kind of popping off in the chat earlier. And I know we were mentioning, nothing's done until the deal is signed and delivered. But do you think this will go through? That's kind of my question for you guys.
I actually don't even know, man. Honestly, I feel like the market and the state of politics nowadays is so unpredictable. Like it was a lot more predictable in the last like couple of years or so, I'd say, up until maybe like post COVID, and now it's just like it's not as predictable. I mean, and there's so much tension in politics too that they could just somebody could pull out of this pretty quickly, or use it as leverage, because both sides need so much leverage now, that they could easily use it for that. And I think that's my point in saying that is I think that's where the root of the I don't even know what the word is, what in unpredictability like that's where it's coming from. It's the fact that both sides need leverage, and they're going to use everything they can for leverage instead of just letting some, this go or that go, and really trying to work together as a team. Nowadays, everything is leverage, whether in the market or politics, like I said. So will this pass? I mean, my assessment is we'll see, and I just wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't pass. But I also wouldn't be surprised if I would be surprised if the situation isn't resolved. It might not happen with this deal, but I can't see it not being resolved with another one that follows it, if that makes sense. That's my
Okay,
take.
so you're saying you're kind of neutral. You're pulling Switzerland on this one, but you're saying
Yep.
if it doesn't go through, it doesn't really matter. Another one's going to come.
Yeah, that's basically what I would say. The market might feel the effects, and probably would feel the effects if this deal doesn't go through. But I'm saying in terms of the issue itself with the debt ceiling, I can't see it not being resolved, because I mean, it's going to impact things globally, and with the situation between the West and the East right now, centered on Ukraine, but I mean it's more significant than that, I would say.
Yeah, the Ambrosia is saying nay, and can devs do something? So, yeah, there is kind of that thought that sure they'll sweep this one under the rug, but I mean, how long can they do that for? Oh, Breezy, what do you think about that? How long do you think if this one doesn't go through? How long do you think they'll just hang on till it pops back up again?
So, from what I'm seeing, or from what I've read real quick, is the tentative agreement that they've reached is they agree. Well, I'm going to quote here. Their agreement is they agree in principle on a deal to raise the debt ceiling. There hasn't actually been a text or outline of what this bill is going to be drawn up yet. So I think the devil's going to be in the details with this. I think news like this has definitely gotten a lot of people more bullish. They're kind of front running the news a little bit. And I think if it does bomb, like it implodes or whatever, more than likely we'll see a continuation put into effect. Basically, they'll just agree to continue funding the government until they're able to get the funds together. The issue is going to be resolved. There's no way around not raising the debt ceiling at this point. It would just implode our economy. It would implode the global economy. So they are going to find an agreement. It's just a question of what concessions are going to be made and how long that's going to take. And the longer we go, the more risk to our credit rating, the more risk to our dollar, and so on.
Yeah, right now it pretty much just seems like they're saying what what they think they want us to hear. Yay, they came to an agreement, but what does that really mean? Like the Ambrosia just put, he's like, what other stuff are they agreeing to in the bill though? And that's what it comes down to. I think putting out, yeah, we came to an, proposed agreement or whatever, it doesn't really actually mean shit because we don't know what they're agreeing for. John, do you have any kind of take on this?
Yeah, I do. To Obrizi's point is that I find it interesting where Yellen was saying June 1st is deadline, June 1st. Now it's, oh, well, we can go maybe to June 15th. Or in reality, it's actually in August. So I find that very interesting that they can put up whatever deadline they want, but then they can move it whenever they want. So does that give them confidence in the market? No. Does that give confidence in our U.S. government? No. Does that give us confidence in the Federal Reserve working with them? I still say no. That's just my opinion. But I think it's going to end up being a soap opera. Every week we're going to be at the TV or at the news going, okay, what are they doing pretty much every day? But definitely on a weekly basis. So I don't really like the ongoing soap opera, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they want your attention, G-Force.
No, thank you.
They'll string it along. Yeah, oh, Breezy?
Well, to your point, G-Force, where, they're going to string it along, we have to keep in mind that we actually hit the debt ceiling in January. So this has already been a long-going issue. It just seems like this is what the news cycle's picking up, and this is what's getting pressure.
You're exactly right, but it seems like Yellen and the Treasury Department can keep coming up with different things to keep stringing us along, and that's what we're doing. Hopefully, it does come to an end. I like to see it come to an end, and the markets start to find their own path instead of being newsbound so much.
Again, I think it's a little bit tricky to kind of plan for anything or react to anything when you don't know have some kind of finalized draw put out and understanding of, what, I guess, on the investor side or just as an individual side, what you should do. So it kind of puts everybody in a bit of a limbo, I think. I know we talk about this quite a bit in the Discord as far as preparing for something that could happen, but I don't know. I didn't see any other questions kind of pop up about it, and I didn't see any hands raised. But I don't know if maybe you guys can give a little bit of advice or just kind of your perspective on, what should you do as an investor or just an individual with this kind of, decision not being made yet.
Me, I'd like to defer to G-Force on this one. I know that you have a wealth more experience seeing these historic trends and everything.
Thank you. As you look at the last 2 weeks, the weekly S&P options have gotten a lot more activity, a lot more range these last 2 weeks. Prior to that, the range was very narrow. So what I can do with my strategy, and that's just what I do, is that as long as I have a weekly range of over 100 points on the S&P 500, then the strategy that I put out every Stock Saturday actually works, and you can make money, even though things might be going sideways. But when the range gets narrow and nobody knows what to do, and you have large funds, private funds or hedge funds, pulling cash to the sidelines, which they were starting to do, and they might continue to do, then there's a sideways action and nobody knows what to do, and everybody's hands are tied.
I like that. Thank you.
Yep, crab market. I think it's always, I don't know, stuff like that. It's always, it's not a sure thing, and people think it's a sure thing, and that's how they get wrecked. It's like I don't know. That's my take on it. I mean, it's like when you see the market, especially in crypto, move with the news of the invasion of Ukraine. It dumped off, and then like a matter of hours later, it recovered, if I recall correctly. So it's like, people will sell and buy the news, but like stuff like this, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of where it's either short term. I mean, but short term for crypto is like real quick. So it's good to keep a picture, an idea of where like macro trends are, because it might give you an idea of what's going to happen down the road, or long term. But like focusing on the event itself and trying to trade that event is always it's a silly thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I saw you guys mentioned in your write-up, you said the Treasury Department has shown resilience in managing the issue thus far, and cryptocurrencies may emerge as a beacon for investors navigating through these uncertain times. Are you thinking because cryptocurrencies move in shorter time frames that that's something that can kind of be still utilized, and still moving forward, even though we're kind of in a hold in regards to, this topic?
I mean, I think also what it is that it's an easy way to what I would say is I think crypto is a temporary store of value. I think it's proven that. You know what I mean? So where it was a couple weekends ago, Breezy and I were like kind of in disagreement. I think that's the point that we agreed on after having a conversation about it outside of Symposium Sunday, where it's like if there's an event that's going to come, like if great GBP goes down because of the Bank of England type thing, people might buy a bunch of Bitcoin just to get out of it. And those people, they'll pump the price because they're buying in a large amount to get out of the dollar problem that they're having, or not the dollar, the fiat problem that they're having, right? But are they going to keep it there long term? Most likely not. So that's kind of how I see it. I think the trends typically speak to that. I don't know what O'Breezy thinks, but I think that's what we came to the conclusion on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Basically, whenever you start to see trouble with a fiat, people try to get their money out of that, for example, the dollar or the ruble or whatever, as quickly as possible. They try to put that into physical assets, and For example, there's only so many used cars you can buy in an area.
Exactly.
So the alternative for the regular person that doesn't have, let me buy a used car as a backup, it's crypto or something similar. You can see that with when the pandemic hit. Even though the U.S. had a massive up spike of tonnage imported, it didn't correlate directly to the amount of tonnage that was making it to distribution centers and retail. So there was a lot of people buying physical goods and importing them that weren't making it to the shelves.
Yep. And then to further explain that point, like the underlying reason why, it's like, okay, well, why, right? Well, like what Reese you just said with the cars, it's not really fungible. You know what I mean? It's not fungible, right? I mean, I guess to a certain degree, they make a bunch of cars, and so there's like the same thing a bunch of different ways, but it's not a liquid fungible way to move value quickly, right? Like same thing with NFTs, right? Like NFTs aren't going to pump because fucking Bank of England goes down, you know what I mean, or takes a hit, and GBP goes down. But fungible tokens, that it's an easy way. It's way more liquid, right? So anything else, it's not as easy to move, especially like let's say the dollar goes down. Okay, am I going to buy stocks with the dollar that's basically pegged to the dollar? No. Why the hell would I do that? You know what I mean? And yeah, it's more liquid, those stocks, but in crypto, it's just easier to onboard that and keep that value in a sense that it's more, well, like they say, in terms of you actually have permissionless transfers of value. So if it gets stuck there, that's cool in a crisis, because as long as the internet's online and the blockchain is running, I can move those funds to somebody else and use it as a currency exactly the way that it is. So that's the reason that I see it, and I think we both see it as a more of a short-term way to exit and kind of like hedge the risk in these fiat situations, we could say, or other situations for that matter.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you guys for your insight. I appreciate it. Good discussion around this topic this week. And I don't see any other hands raised, so I will pass it back to G to wrap it up for us this week. And I will see everybody in the Discord. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Christine. Really appreciate that. So big thank you to everyone, for the analysts, for doing the work, putting in over the reports over the week, coming on and going over them, and then having this Q&A and discussion about everything that's been covered so far. Thank you to everyone who's attended, whether you are here live now or you are listening in, whether it's within the Discord or on our YouTube channel. We hope to see you all again next week, same time, same place. Until then, take care.